President Donald Trump on Thursday questioned the actions of the Army helicopter pilot and air traffic controller ahead of a deadly midair collision in Washington and quickly veered into politics to speculate that Democrats and diversity initiatives shared blame for the deaths of 67 people. According to Assosicted Press, as Trump spoke, a federal investigation into the crash was just getting started and first responders were still working to recover bodies from the wreckage of the commercial jet and Army helicopter that crashed into the Potomac River near Reagan Washington National Airport Wednesday night. Speaking from the White House, just over 3 miles from the scene, Trump at points acknowledged that it was too soon to draw conclusions as he encouraged the nation to pray for the victims. But he moved nonetheless to assign blame. Trump began his appearance expressing condolences for the crash. He then proceeded to attack political opponents and unleash grievances about diversity initiatives. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems and other mental and physical conditions, Trump said. He added that the program allowed for the hiring of people with hearing and vision issues as well as paralysis, epilepsy, and dwarfism. Trump said air traffic controllers needed to be geniuses. They have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses, he said. You can't have regular people doing their job. The plane crash marked the first major disaster of Trump's new term, and his response evoked his frequent, and controversial, briefings on the COVID-19 pandemic. His handling of the pandemic helped sour voters on him as he failed to win re-election in 2020. Trump said, "We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions." Then he proceeded to hold forth at length about what happened, at one point wondering if the helicopter pilot was wearing night vision goggles. Vice President JD Vance, new Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth all lined up behind Trump to praise his leadership and echo his concerns about DEI programs and hiring. Trump complained specifically about Pete Buttigieg, who served as Transportation Secretary under former President Joe Biden, calling him a disaster. He's run it right into the ground with his diversity, Trump said. Complaining about the previous administration, Trump continued, their policy was horrible and their politics was even worse. Buttigieg responded in a post on X, calling Trump's comments despicable. He added, as families grieve, Trump should be leading, not lying. Trump made a point to tell Duffy, who was sworn in on Tuesday as Buttigieg's replacement, it's not your fault. Duffy took the White House podium alongside Trump and declared, when Americans take off in airplanes, they should expect to land at their destination. Duffy added, we will not accept excuses.
We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions and ideas, and I think we'll probably state those opinions now. Because over the years I've watched as things like this happen and they say, well, we're always investigating, and then the investigation 3 years later they announce it. We think we have some pretty good ideas, but we'll find out how this disaster occurred and we'll ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. The FAA and the NTSB and the U.S. military will be carrying out a systematic and comprehensive investigation. Our new Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, his second day on the job when that happened. It's a rough one. We'll be working tirelessly. He's a great gentleman. The whole group these are great people. I'm also immediately appointing an acting commissioner to the FAA, Christopher Rocheleau, a 22-year veteran of the agency, highly respected. Christopher, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We must have only the highest standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude, they have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on because I always felt this was a job that, and other jobs too, but this was a job that had to be superior intelligence, and We didn't really have that, and we had it. And then when I left office and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse. About a week ago, almost upon, and my administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent, the word talent. They have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses. You can't have regular people doing that job. They won't be able to do it. But we'll restore faith in American air travel. I'll have more to say about that. I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. They can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. The FAA website shows that the agency's guidance on diversity hiring were last updated on March 23rd of 22. They wanted to make it even more so. And then I came in, and I assume maybe this is the reason. The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run this Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bullshit. So I had to say that it's terrible.
The U.S. military has transported about 90 Patriot air defense missiles from a warehouse in Israel to Poland for delivery to Ukraine. Axios reports this, citing 3 informed sources. The publication reports that U.S. Air Force C-17s recently arrived at an airbase in southern Israel and flew to the Polish city of Rzeszów, which is a hub for delivering Western military aid to Ukraine. The sources said the flight was carrying about 90 Patriot interceptors, which could be used by Ukraine with its current Patriot batteries. Additional equipment such as radars and other gear would first be transferred to the United States for repair, the report said. The publication sources said that after the Israel Defense Forces announced the withdrawal of these missiles from service, Ukraine approached the United States and Israel with a proposal that Israel send these missiles to the United States for repairs, after which they would be handed over to the Ukrainian military. For months, Israel delayed, fearing that Russia might retaliate, possibly by supplying advanced weapons to Iran, the article says. An unnamed Ukrainian official told Axios that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had refused to return his calls on the issue for weeks, but Netanyahu finally gave the green light to the idea in September. A senior Israeli official stressed that Israel had informed Russia in advance of the missile transfer and stressed that it was only returning the Patriot system to the US, not supplying weapons to Ukraine. A spokesman for the Israeli Prime Minister's office confirmed that the Patriot system had been returned to the US, but did not know whether Ukraine had ultimately received it. In April 2024, Israel announced that it was completely abandoning the Patriot air defense systems. It was noted that they would be replaced by more advanced air defense systems. Even then, the media wrote about Ukraine in the context of Israel's refusal of the systems. Patriots are known to have successfully intercepted some Scud missiles fired from Iraq into Israel during the 1991 Gulf War. They were officially adopted by Israel that year, but the Patriot did not make its first interception until 2014, when it intercepted a Hamas drone launched from the Gaza Strip.